At 24, Giannis won his first MVP before taking the Toronto Raptors and Kawhi Leonard to 6 games in the Eastern Conference Finals, falling just short of a finals berth and falling just short of a potential ring at just 24 years of age. The team looked poised to be able to compete for at least a few more years. Their second best player, Chris Middleton, was only 28 years of age at the time, now 29, and funnily enough, talking about Chris Middleton, there hasn't been much talk about him as just a role player because apparently that's what people thought he was, even though he's been one of the best 3 or 4 players on the floor at every stage in the Heat series, all 3 games so far, and has arguably been the Bucks' best player. But anyways, we're getting off topic. But despite the early success Giannis had individually, and the near success his team had going close to going to the NBA Finals, the reality is the media have been pushing a narrative to see Giannis leave Milwaukee in the upcoming 2021 free agency class. And the sole reason this is because Milwaukee don't have the same pull a lot of other franchises do, and a lot of the big city franchises do. This narrative being pushed to get Giannis to leave the Bucks started during last year's regular season. This was the best player on the best team in the NBA, looking likely to go to the NBA Finals or at least come close. And during the regular season, 3 years out of free agency, or 2.5, whatever it was, the media were already concocting a way of trying to force Giannis out of the Bucks, or at least try to cause a stir and look at potential destinations, when in reality it looked as though he had no interest in leaving Milwaukee, but they just threw out the idea in hopes that it would pick up some traction. And to then fast forward to the Bucks losing in 6 games to Kawhi Leonard and the Raptors into the Eastern Conference Finals, and the story repeated itself, this time with slightly more traction, but still not enough traction or enough of a reason to believe Giannis would leave, considering it was his first year as an MVP level player, it was his first year under a new head coach, and his first year in a new system, and they fell a couple of games short of beating the Toronto Raptors in the Eastern Conference Finals. But this is what the media do. Look, I'm not coming up with some huge conspiracy. I'm sure it's something a lot of you guys know. But what they do is they continue to push this agenda and just hope it works. And just hope it somehow happens without actually having any substantial evidence. And then when we look at the 2020 season, from the rip, we had people talking about how this was a make or break year for the Milwaukee Bucks, and in particular their hopes of keeping their star asset. Keeping in mind this was effectively their second year as a contender. 2 years. It had only been 1 year of disappointment, which was still close to an NBA Finals, and they were already talking about how this was make or break for Giannis and the Bucks, or the Bucks and keeping Giannis, should I say. None of this was actually substantiated. It was just people throwing out ideas and hoping it would stick. And with Milwaukee now in trouble of being swept, or at least losing to the Heat in the second rounds of the playoffs, the idea is more prevalent than ever that Giannis will leave the Bucks, and yet again he has made it no reason to believe that he will actually leave the Bucks, but just the constant reminder that the free agency class is looming, and the constant reminder that the Bucks are on borrowed time seemingly, has led people to believe that this will be Giannis's last year as a Bucks player, which is just ridiculous. Quickly before I get into the video, if you could drop a like right now, that would be much appreciated. These videos do take a while to make, and I'm trying to make as much content as possible, and liking the video genuinely changes it a lot. It would be much appreciated. Doesn't take long, thanks. LeBron, AD, Kawhi, Jimmy Butler, James Harden, Chris Paul, Jason Tatum. These are all the best players in the NBA, and one thing they've all done these playoffs is take over games and will their team to victories when their other players haven't been playing well, or the other star they're matched up with hasn't been having a good game. And when you look at Giannis in this Heat series, he just hasn't been able to will his team over the line like Jimmy Butler has been able to do for the opposition. Coming into this series, I thought the Heat would win, not convincingly, probably in 7 games, but I saw the advantage with the Heat was that they had enough wing defenders to match up onto the likes of Middleton, they had enough shooters on the perimeter, and they had the Giannis stopper and Bam Adebayo. I thought they'd get it done as a team effort, but I still thought Giannis would put up good numbers and be the best player in the series. That's what you expect from the 2 times MVP and the reigning defensive player of the year. Sure, Jimmy Butler's had a great season, but Giannis should not be getting outplayed by Jimmy Butler over the course of a series. That shouldn't be happening if he wants to be the best player in the NBA. And he hasn't just been getting outplayed like, say, Luka against Kawhi, where it's a close one. It hasn't even been close at all. Jimmy Butler has been the clear best player in the series, and then I'd argue Middleton's probably been the best Bucks player, or you could say him and Giannis are about on par. But that's just not good enough for someone that should be leading his team and should be the best player in the series and probably the best player in the league if that's what he wants to be. If you were Giannis in this situation, you have to take a lot of the blame because you look at 3 of these games that have all been 3 close games, and you can't expect Giannis to dominate all 3 games, but Butler's taken over in 2 different games, and if Giannis had have taken over in 2 different games, like the other star player has been able to do, the Bucks are up 2-1. It's that simple. And again, I'm not trying to discredit the Heat, but this is the role as a star player, as a superstar player, to do this, and he just hasn't been able to do this, and he has to bear a lot of blame for this. But going back to the actual thought of Giannis leaving Milwaukee, there has been nothing to suggest he wants to leave. He's always said he wishes he could spend his career in Milwaukee and win a championship for the city that drafted him. And as I said, he has to take a lot of the responsibility for his performances against Toronto last year and so far against Miami. It's far from all his fault, and Budenholzer has a lot to answer for, but he can't look at the Raptors series and now the Miami series and think he's dominated and it's been everyone else that has let him down. There are flaws in this team, but Giannis has been far from perfect either. But regardless of Giannis's loyalty to the city that drafted him, he recognizes that he's going to have to try and win a championship very soon if he wants to be one of the greatest players of all time. And that might force him to start taking control of the front office like you see all the superstar players do. Kawhi Leonard was doing that in LA before he was even there. LeBron James obviously did that in Cleveland, LA, pretty much anywhere he's gone, LeBron James has been the GM. And now it's probably time for Giannis to do exactly that. And I can't see the Bucks saying no to that if they want to keep their best player. And taking more control might see Mike Budenholzer fired. It might see another star player traded for to team up with the Bucks. But nothing suggests that Giannis is interested in leaving, that he wants to leave, apart from just pure speculation and pure rumors that have been formed for 2 years with no substance. Like, the extent of Giannis's free agency decision is so significant that you just search up Giannis and free agency into Google and you'll find the Raptors, the Mavericks, the Lakers, the Heat, pretty much whoever you want that's in a big market and will have cap space, or even if they won't have cap space, they're linked with Giannis and linked with him in 2021 because that's what the media have been pushing and that's what everyone else is kind of following with. Look, I can admit Giannis isn't in a perfect situation, we all know that, but why are we all so fixated on getting him into the perfect situation? I thought you guys hated on Kevin Durant for making that exact same decision to leave Oklahoma City and join Golden State. But now all of a sudden you want Giannis to leave, or at least you're pushing for him to leave. It doesn't really make sense to me. And when I say Giannis isn't in a perfect situation, it's not that obviously, but it's pretty damn good. You've got Chris Middleton, who's a good second option and has been playing like that all series long when you've needed him. You add to this, they've got Brook Lopez, they've got players that can stretch the floor, they've got players that can shoot, and they've got a solid team around him. They've got a pretty good team, a team that's good enough to beat this Heat team if Giannis delivers like he should be delivering, but he just hasn't been able to do that. It's the same narrative that gets pushed every time a player in a small market can't win a championship immediately. I don't see anyone doing it with Anthony Davis on the Lakers. Who's to say they're going to win the championship this year? He's got a player option, for God's sakes. He could just say no to it. He could genuinely be a free agent next year if he wanted to. Giannis still has another year on his contract, pledged his allegiance to Milwaukee. Anthony Davis has done none of that. Yet all I hear is Giannis wants to leave, Giannis is going to leave. And the only difference between these two is one plays in LA, the other one plays in Milwaukee. It's that simple. There's nothing else to look at here. And again, like I said, despite the loyalty I think Giannis has, and despite him wanting to stay with the Bucks, the reality is they're going to have to make a change pretty quick, and I don't think Eric Bledsoe can be the starting point guard on a championship team, and he just hasn't delivered at all for the Bucks in the playoffs. They really messed up getting rid of Malcolm Brogdon. They could really use a Malcolm Brogdon right now. A player that this Bucks team's certainly going to look at is Chris Paul, and it looks certain that he's leaving OKC, so I don't see them not throwing everything they have at getting him, because if you can form him, Middleton and Giannis in a type of big three, that'll be formidable. That'll be very dangerous, and that could push them over the edge. One thing the Bucks have been lacking for the last 2 years now is a closer. I like Middleton and Giannis as a pair, as players that'll get the job done, but in the closing minutes in the playoffs, they don't have that reliable move they can get to. Butler's been able to get to the rim, been able to get to the free throw line. LeBron James does it, Harden does it, Kawhi Leonard does it, Luka Doncic does it. These guys get to the rim, these guys get to the free throw line in the closing minutes, and they will their team over the line. Giannis or Middleton haven't shown that consistently over their career in the playoffs, and it's really hurt them in this Heat series. So to add the best closer in the NBA, he is the best closer in the NBA in CP3, even if it's just to add him for closing out the last 5 minutes of playoff games, it would be worthwhile because that's what the Bucks need more than anything at the moment. And we all know the point guard's going to add a bit more than just closing out games. I think it's time to say goodbye to Coach Bud and goodbye to Eric Bledsoe, hopefully for the Bucks. But I don't think it's time to say goodbye to Giannis or time to panic. This is their second year being a contender. There are clear flaws in the team, but Giannis isn't going to look at this team and think to himself, they've let him down significantly. He's definitely let them down, or at least let himself down throughout these playoffs. And I expect him to realize that. And I expect him to stay with the Bucks and look to get some help in the likes of Chris Paul, maybe a different kind of point guard, someone that can close out games for them. And if they can do that, if they can keep him, Middleton, and add another player, I don't see any reason to panic if you're a Bucks fan. Giannis is only 25 years of age. He's still entering the prime of his career, and I think the Bucks are going to bounce back from this. Look, the series isn't even over between them and the Heat. In my opinion, the Bucks are going to win the next 2 games and probably take it to 6. But looking forward, there's plenty to change, and I think it can all work out for the Bucks. There's nothing to panic about. The media just like to cause a stir, and everyone's going to be nibbling at the cheese that they're throwing out, if that even makes sense. As always, if you did enjoy the video, a like would be greatly appreciated. I try to make this content regularly. Much appreciated. Enjoy the support. Thank you for watching.